right, good morning, everyone. Oh, I guess the question is, on my mind anyway, how low will they go today? Um, so yesterday, the plan was coming in, can prices get above Thursday's high? The Dow was a little bit stronger than some of the others, but I thought we'd look at the Dow ETF as well, or down below Thursday's low, because the majority of indices had inside days on Friday, where the Dow kind of poked above Thursday's high, but the majority of others just traded inside the wider day. So Thursday was our initial line in the sand, whether it could get above or below. And things were pretty choppy until they started to sell off a little later in the day. And we were patient here in the room for quite a long time, waiting and waiting. And then, we put on some shorts on the Russell. I had shorted the NASDAQ, the NQs, and it just eventually, after a little testing of patience, it slid lower, and then a little bounce at the end of the day, which created this little tail here. So now we've got a little extra weakness, and a lot of the charts have looked similar these days, going pretty much in the same direction. Some a little worse or better than others. But here's the concept of the void, and the void meaning a void of a reference point. Now that this is going down, of support, or if it was going up, resistance. And there's a little bit of congestion here. I mean, the obvious point of reference is down here, and I'm just going to tickle that up to like the close of that bar there. I know there's a tail, so we always look at these things as areas. And while we don't know whether it could possibly stop these overlapping bars here, we look at what we call the weight of the evidence and say, it went up and went sideways, creating this resistance area. It could have taken off to the upside, but didn't. And then it went down, and it's down a little bit more. So will it stop here? In reality, we really don't know, but we look at the most significant point, and that's going to be a swing, where there's been a significant turn. This was just a little bullish price action prior to the move. So going into the open, we'll just see if this can break the lows, and we'll look at the futures to get a cleaner look at this. But as this is going sideways here, it's building a little bit of support. So the question is, well, and this is something that, as traders, and we're investors looking at charts, so we look at something like this and say, oh, the support is down here, and that's where it should go. And, potentially we're short and looking for that to happen. And then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, which could be in the middle of nowhere, or maybe there's a little support here, buyers step up and create a new area of support. And that's new information. And if we're short, we can fight that information. I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear that it's going to possibly go up. And whether it's a jiggler, it could be a significant turn, is the unknown. So that's why you need a plan on how to deal with all of this. But for the moment, as long as this would stay below this area right here, the assumption is it's going to go down. And then, we just manage it bar by bar in the time frames that we choose to use. So looking at the daily, things are, where is it? 258-ish and a half down here. And the next support you could see is in this area. So I think it can go down here. And ideally, from a historical pattern point of view, it breaks this low. And then maybe it begins to turn. And that could set up a nice opportunity, and that would be down here. It had the bottoming tail bar that rallied back up at the end of the week. And that was created on news too. Right? The news pushed it down, news pushed it up. And so maybe we get a turn here within this weekly in an uptrend. So maybe we'll see. Maybe it just, slides all the way down here. So we'll see whether it creates a support area down here, a W bottom on the daily, which we'll look at that as a tradable event, or if it just keeps going down to this major support point and then reverses, we'll look at that as a tradable event. In other words, we look for buys, even if it's a counter trend trade, once it creates some support, and it's after a sharp drop, where we can do that counter trend trade. And over here, even if it's a deep retracement to major support and we get the reversal, we'll look at that as a long trade. Right now, intraday, we're looking for shorts to move down as long as this continues to move lower toward this level, right, where the buyers should show up. Spiders, same story. It's what we've been saying, day to day here, that a lot of these indices have this similar pictures, a little weaker, a little stronger. I do take note of this bar here, this little whipsaw that occurred right there with the tail on the top and the bottom, where it tried to go up and it tried to go down and couldn't. Overall sideways. I'm interested to look at the futures to see what they look like, maybe even on a shorter time frame. Qs, and similar pattern again. Hourly downtrend. It's got room to go down. Not a lot, but as an intraday trader, that's pretty good distance to get down to that area if it can make it. So that's what we'll be keeping an eye on here this morning. And of course, if it can get above this level, that changes the bias a bit to see if it can rally back up. All right. So far, the trend is down, and we give the benefit of the doubts to the trend. And here, as I said, these look like they're going lower. Well, before we get to the futures, let's take a look at the Russell here, which has been the weaker. And, that's gapped a bit lower this morning. It's at 258-ish. And so at times, and the majority of the time, when markets or stocks, whatever's in a correction, and you look at what has been weak, and that was where the better opportunity was, was here yesterday. That was the weaker. But as this gets closer to support, there's a tendency for the weaker to start showing a little bit of relative strength compared to the others that are weak. So going to the Qs with a short bias is probably going to be a more profitable trade, considering the fact that the Russell here is getting closer to a significant support level. So this may just hang down there or just go under it a little bit, where what has a void, right, what has a void to go down should play what we call catch-up. When we typically talk about catch-up from the long side, where something was underperformed and it catches up with what is outperformed and moves up. Well, catch-up can be played on the downside as well. So here, where this has the void, this could play catch-up with the Russell that has already reached, it's close to it. It can go lower, a relatively significant reference point over to the left here. So this isn't to say that this can't be a profitable trade as well. It's just that the other markets appear to have more room to get to where buyers will show up. So looking at the futures, and we get a cleaner look at things since they trade obviously more actively. And you can see the void concept here. And so that little swing low, which is of less significance than, say, this congestion or this low down here, unless prices can get back up above this level, the assumption is that they're going down because there's nothing here. I see this little congestion, but this topping pattern and this breakdown and this inability to rally after this sharp drop displays weakness and suggests it's going to go lower. So we go with that until something changes. And of course, we'll look at this on a 5-minute chart. I will just see the jiggles that happen there, or the attempts to go up, which will occur on smaller time frames where they'll just look like, chop on a higher time frame. And you can see the greater distance to get down to a support level here. So we'll see if this breaks here after the open. I'm just curious, look at the 5-minute, what that looks like. So you can see it's just kind of bobbling around there. It broke the low and came up. And so it's a mess. You can see the moving averages intersecting prices, and it's just choppy. So if I was in this, I'm not overnight, but if I was in it, I would just be sitting with my position, waiting to see what forms here. Maybe some other attempts, especially at the open, some fake outs to go up. And then if it drops again, but overall just, getting a little wild and whippy there on the 5-minute, whereas the 60-minute is just, just a sideways grind, trying to move here. But, we've got a reversal and a bottoming tail bar. So there are some buyers in this area for whatever reason, and we'll see if they can hold it. And as long as they can't get it back up above here, well, eventually they will give it up as they did Friday, and down it will flow. Qs, same story. Sitting on some support. You've got the 2-bar reversal, right? The bottoming tail bar, trend is down. It's got room to fall. So just wait it out and see whether it chops around some more. Maybe 10 o'clock reversal period. It's monitoring mode. See what's going on and at what point it continues to drop. The Dow looks like a good I don't know what's the word. I was going to say victim or something we can pick on to go lower as well, even though it's bottoming here. Guys, give me 1 second, please. So this one has a lot of room. Basically, the way things are moving here, again, with my assumption that they're going to go lower based on the trend, shorting these futures contracts and kind of look at it at the moment. I have to kind of put a restraining order on myself, but it's like looking at like as a kid in a candy store as to which one is going to produce more profits. And so when I say a restraining order, is just to say that, look, follow the trend. If something changes abruptly in difference to what it looks like right now, don't ignore it. That's how we all get in trouble. Russell, as I said, it's closer to an area of support. So the distance to get there is much smaller. And just looking at what we've been looking at, greater opportunities, shorting Qs or spiders or the Dow. Oil, potentially setting a sell setup here in this area. It bounced from support. And as you could see what we do here every day, those of you that are on YouTube every day or here in the room, we look to the left and we see, why do prices stop going down? What's to the left? If there was nothing to the left, can it create support? Create a pivot low, retest it. Can it create a pivot low? That's a W bottom. And then it goes up to where there's resistance and, repeat. And now that it's over here, we see that some sellers are stepping up here. And certainly not one of my favorite patterns to short this one, since it's made this low point here. But intraday, I don't even have a pattern here that interests me, tell you the truth. This is retesting here. Support is close by. And even though if it was to go down, it's just, this is just not a setup that offers a great reward to risk at the moment. Bonds still going higher, and which means yields are going lower, which means the last holdout, the 3-month versus the 30-year, is getting closer to inversion. And you can see where it is. This chart is moving. It is right there. And, one of the comments I made in the room yesterday was, yields were soaring. And I was like, how is this market ignoring this? How long can it ignore what is becoming a more of a bearish implication, even though it's longer term? No, this is not a positive that yields were dropping like that. And, as they are this morning, they've now exceeded what appeared to be an exhaustion gap. So how bearish is that after a drop like that? So yields going down, money going into to bonds, which means a little interest, less interest in equities. And, the interest rates are going down on the assumption that the economy is going to get weaker. Yield curves invert. because of the belief of recession. Oil goes down for the same reason, and the transports go down for the same reason. So yesterday is, how is this market not going lower in the face of what's happening? Sometimes the logical isn't working in the moment, so you just have to wait it out. Yeah. Gold, right? Just kind of backing off here a little bit, maybe getting a little extended. I guess it is a little extended here, but so a little rest for it, but that looks like it's going higher. If you look at the monthly here, it's into a void, and we can just peek at that, and you can see that it's into the void. Maybe 1600 as a round number is a stopping point for it. Since it got through 1500. And silver, right, going up as well. That's up at some resistance, so that might have some effect on the movement in gold. And just on a side note, the VIX made a turning point here, so keep an eye on that. Set an alert. You don't have to keep an eye. Set an alert there, and if the market really sells off, you're going to want to send an alert up at this area here. So we look at the volatility index as a reference point where the market may turn. Intraday, we look at the NYSE tick, and we also look at the total put call ratio. And one of the things I mentioned in the green room yesterday was the fact that option traders were loading up on put options, and I suggested that maybe the markets are just not going to go down. And once they backed off from that down, it went later in the day. So we look at the technicals, we look at intermarket analysis, we look at market internals, and that gives us a guidance as to where things might go. So that's it. Hope that all helps today, guys, with the bias for the day. And all yours, Dan.
All right, thanks. Good morning. Yeah, Robert, that's a very true statement right there. Again, in the journal today, just bad news all over the world. Now we got Russia in there blowing up their nukes. Hong Kong is a mess. India, Argentina, on and on. We have 3 open positions in the weekly options trader, Whirlpool, credit spread for Friday, a Dollar General put spread Friday, and MLM for Friday, the 240s way the heck down here. So there's nothing to do, and our stop's under support. Swing trader, we have longs and shorts. ANET, we're short stock. AYX, we're short a naked put. The 115's way the heck down here. SIBO, covered call, and I tighten the stop. Casey, covered call. Dish, we moved the stop to the 5-minute low yesterday, and that held because it gapped under the stop. EIX, covered call. ETR, long stock. MLM, covered call. Overstock. We have a covered call and a bull put credit spread. PVH, we are short stock. TMG, all right, I typed in the wrong symbol. Maybe TGM. Shoot. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the text. I put in the wrong symbol here in the spreadsheet. Here, I'll just do it now real quick. JHG. There you go. Let me fix it. So that triggered, we shorted that under 1850. Urban, we're short stock, and I tightened the stop. And finally, whiskey, we have a covered call, and I tightened the stop. Just because, you know, if the market's going to fall apart, I don't want to sit through a deep retracement, but the weekly and monthly are still beautiful. Let's look at a bunch of gappers here. VFF, it's a big bullish gap, 1460, the bullish monthly, but the gap's kind of too big. Look at this Roku beast. This was on earnings the other day, blew out the expected move, and that is a sign of relative strength and on its own page. So when I say on its own page, it's kind of, it's primarily a relative strength concept. It just doesn't care what the sector or the broader markets are doing. But that's a definite one. CVET 1485. Wow, that looks like the gap disaster of the day so far. This one is a positive gap surprise. DCPH. Wow, look how big that is. 40. It's gapping up, you know, multi-year highs here. But believe it or not, this is a bullish 15-minute chart. Gap, wide range. Whenever it comes in a controlled way and holds to 50%, yeah, it sounds like a bio and acts like one to get a gap like that. OPTN had earnings, I think. No interest in that pattern. EAT 4150. Yeah, that's a nice gap. Yeah, gapping above this. I don't know how big the target is with that messy weekly, but let's definitely keep an eye on it. Hook had earnings. It looks like a junk stock with low volume. NFE, I can't tell where it's gapping, but I think that was earnings. Bravo Echo. Hey, this is actually, even though it's in a nasty downtrend, daily, weekly, monthly, this could be a gap and snap candidate. You know, it's down here already, far from the 20. Now it's gapping down, and you have a fluid oversold on the 15 pre-market. I'm gonna watch that one for a little day trade. Dave, no volume, you're going. IIVI 3640. That's a bearish gap, but there's support there. IAA, I can't tell where you're gapping. I think that was earnings. Elon, it's flopping around all over the place. That's a mess. See that we talked about. AAP 129. So that's a bearish gap. Way the heck down here. I have no idea which way that's going to go. It's got to come back to it. BMA. Which one? That's what I mean. Is you going to do a call spread or a put spread? I have zero opinion until I see what it does in 30 minutes. But I'll put it in a window. But yeah, it closed bearish. Like, so I would have taken the call side. BMA shows it gapping up $2 here. You might get a day trade out of that. Stabilized, stable pre-market. 30-minute high day trade. I wouldn't touch that as a swing. JD 2860, that's a nice gapper. I'll put that there. This is Hong Kong. I just wanted to take a look at it. It got slammed. I mean, if somebody could give me a Cliff Note version of what's going on over there in Hong Kong. You know, I read they were mad about the extradition treaty, and then now police stuff. Yeah, I'm looking at the Qs here. Qs are back to their pre-market highs. Yep. So now that's kind of a W bottom with a new low bonus on the 15-minute chart. So that definitely favors the you know, the short-term low scenario. ZBH, we're still watching this, holding well on all time frames. Same with C block here, 1, 2, 3. Hey, that might be ready to go today. That's going in a window. That's one of the nicer things I've seen on the long side. Same with this, QTWO. You know, when they get extended, this is what I want them to do, go sideways. So look at the 1, 2, 3 on the weekly. Both of those I like. Look at LMT. We were watching to go sideways. Now it's gapping over yesterday's close. That's a 30-minute high trade right there, folks. I just found 3 good ones on my leftover list. I'm not rushing into anything. Here's our JHG shorts. Very nice. You know, so now I can move stop to yesterday's high. I love moving stops quickly, because that means we had a good entry. Wow, Roku, that's just amazing. Beyond, I have this as a short if it'll crack, but if it doesn't crack, no harm. All right, your EAT. The pre-market is not as solid for me, but 30-minute high looks fine.